Welcome everybody. In this video, we're going to unveil the beginning part of a new journey we would like to offer to you all. We haven't fully landed with all the descriptions, but we're very deep in a gestational cauldron right now with many, many downloads. And it is my pleasure to unveil to you today some of the introductory information that we're ready to share with you about the Artha path. This is our new four pillars system, which we're going to be utilizing to help our planning, to also be offering from finite positions and places, and to help you have a structured journey to spiritual liberation and transfiguration and transcendence. And lots of big words there, but we have to start at the beginning. And this is very much the journey of the Artha path. Artha, in many ways, represents the element of earth. And here is the first gateway on our journey, the foundation of healing and inner stability. So, what's in store? So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the thinking. Well, thinking is even the wrong word. Some of the reasons this seems to have come online at this time. As some of you will know, our little school has been around for about 4 or 5 years now in different ways. And some years ago, some astrologer said to me, "You're going to bring through a system, okay? You're going to be sitting and something's going to come to you." And I kind of felt that, but it wasn't there. And we've been giving many offerings and teachings. I've been teaching for quite a long time. And actually, just a few months ago, after a very profound pranayama immersion, which I do a few times a year, suddenly all these scribbles came out and it just systematized everything that we offer. And it also spoke to how we could provide an answer and a trajectory to help people come out of what we see is a lot of people seeking experiences, looping, and not really growing. And a lot of people possibly being disconnected from what actually a spiritual awakening is about. Okay. And since I've been very young, I have been on some sort of spiritual path. And I'm not going to talk about that all today, but I'm very grateful to have worked with many, many wisdom keepers around the world and to train with, study with, and become a practitioner under Khentrul Rinpoche, who's a Kalachakra Tantra master. And I see a lot of stuckness, and I think a lot of people are seeing a lot of stuckness and a lot of very expensive stuckness out there. And so, out of this pranayama journey, suddenly came something that is very far from rocket science. It is, like most things, very, very simple. And more so, it is not unique or new. Okay. So, but it is a beautiful way for us to apply what we do under an ancient system, which is Purushartha system, which is seen in Hindu and yogic philosophy. And these are four pillars under which our life is organized. And we need all four of them. But in some ways, we need to understand that each of them exists. And this is where I think that a lot of people are stuck. And we're going to break this down very, very briefly right now. So in the right, you'll see that here is this diagram which says Artha, and this is the path we're talking about today. And Artha can be seen as the stability we crave, economic values, having a home that we can call our own, that sort of thing. Okay. And Artha is very much, as I said earlier, like the earth. And earth is the most dense of the elements. So if we want to step into a good spiritual path, we have to be grounded first, okay? So Artha is the first pillar. And if we were looking at them in order, we would probably say that the next is actually Kama. Kama is like pleasure, our desires, and is also in some ways on a spiritual level is about the transformation or the alchemization of our desires into something that's more spiritually inclined. And then, and that's related to air. And then we have Dharma, and Dharma is our righteousness, our higher path. This can be the teachings that we undertake. It is also the higher path that we hope to occupy, good deeds, a meaningful pathway in life. And of course, this then, when we're in the right path and our values and our priorities are straight, that then gives rise to what we call moksha, which is water, actually. And this is the liberation. And when we say liberation, it's not just like liberation from paying tax or something like that that people might want. It's really seen as this liberation from samsara. Samsara being the continual looping of the life, death, rebirth cycle and our continued fixation on everything in that realm. So it's really about this journey that we take as a spiritual being who has a body to understanding that a true spiritual being goes beyond body and that our consciousness is infinite. And in many ways, this is helping us to surrender our feelings of separation into feelings of oneness with the divine. So that's the journey. And right now, many, many people are stuck in Artha because they haven't processed the teachings that help them to migrate to the next stage. And this is one of the reasons that we're offering these pillars as a new, very, very deep, long-term trajectory, which we have many, many teachings on different levels for different people, is that this is so, so necessary if people are wanting to say that they're having a spiritual journey. Because what's happening is I think that a lot of people have some sort of awakening, but they don't actually know what's supposed to come next. So there are these energetics that they feel and experience, but they still haven't dealt with things like trauma, not feeling safe in the world, not feeling safe in their body, not knowing their roots, not having done their ancestral work, and not actually working either with what we might call the lower chakras or also having understood maybe how we can understand karma and how we can maybe understand karma as it arises through sacred sciences like astrology. And so we have designed, or Spirit has designed really, because it just came out after an immersion, that all our teachings now are following this four pillar structure, albeit in a modernized way, to help people to become more trauma informed and to actually understand these things from a different lens and a different perspective. Because what we've got right now is a lot of people spending a lot of money, having experiences, and staying stuck. And part of this is because people are looking at these things from a materialist perspective and not from a spiritual perspective. And they're not honoring that we have always had these cosmic and natural laws. And so if people only look at our growth from a material principle, they're never putting their vantage point to their possible spiritual liberation. And so our Dharma is to help you to see the keys and the codes of the ancients in a more easy way to understand that can tailor to your lifestyle and your way of looking at things, because we are not people who are sitting meditating in caves in the Himalayas all day long. We understand how society works, especially in the countries that we've experienced. So the reason I think that we are being asked to do this by the cosmos is that we really have these possibilities in these coming years to step into what we might call a new earth, a golden age. But we can only do that if we really have a radical perspective shift from how we've been doing things, which has been from this materialist position. And that's blatantly not working. And I think we're all starting to know that. And so, if we can start to release ourselves from the overwhelm, from the contracted positioning that the karma and the trauma create, and start to realize that there are spiritual ways to approach this, and that there are things that we might call wrong view that are what keeping people looping, we can actually very, very quickly create a fast track to then move into the kama stage, and then to dharma, and then to moksha. And the more people who come on board to decide, you know what? Actually, there is something missing. Why am I still here? Why am I still experiencing this every month? Why do I have these meltdowns? Why do I not feel in my body? And honoring this amazing time that we're in, where people understand the neuropsychology, the neurobiology, the somatic elements of trauma, all these things, but also to weave it with the sacred sciences and the ageless wisdom of the tantric adepts, of the wisdom keepers. This is vitally important, because if we only look at it from a materialist, greedy, addicted to shopping perspective, we are only ever going to stay in Artha, and Artha is not the completion of the path. So this is our job, okay, is to help to open up what we might call a liberatory path to you. And this is something that many yogic philosophers who are very prominent in this day and age are talking about. In the true spiritual traditions, everything was about really reaching moksha. It was understanding that we're all here to uplift our consciousness, to overcome karma, to step into this higher iteration of ourself, who is not clinging to stability, to shopping, to paying their mortgage, and who's actually able to become comfortable with all of that, but see that it's not the end game. And of course, not all people in this life are here to maybe go to the moksha part of the path, but we can eliminate suffering if we master Artha. Okay. And so our journey with you all is going to be to start to open up a journey where you can move through these pillars in a way that works for you in this lifetime. So there will be much more for us to share in the coming times. And yeah, this is just a little bit about some of the things that I have done over the years. And I guess that the reason that I'm putting that down, and I'm not going to read through it all, but is that what we're being guided as nomads to do is to really start to anchor in these sanctuaries, small sanctuaries where people can come for really, really tailored mentoring and support alongside doing the different levels of Artha and different levels of the pillars that may suit where you're at. And in a few months, well, actually, in a few days, we're going to start anchoring for one of our hubs. We have many partners in different places. And the work that I've done over about 25 years in network development internationally was a lot around hubs and distributed networks. And I have been nomadically praying for when would be the time that I could anchor something. And now we have the signs and some of the conditions to help us to start the deeper phase of exploration and partnership building. So we're ready to be more committed to you if you're ready to be more committed to us. And we also obviously know that some of you are new to us and don't have lots of money. And we have basically tailored some taster versions of the Artha Path up to certificate level, where you can also get referrals and signposting that are personalized to what you need in your own journey. And then we also have a teacher training, which is then going to be available for people who'd like to be affiliate hub members and to also help us when we go into the deeper phase of what we're here to offer. So I am being asked to place my experience into the cauldron and to hopefully magnetize people to come into that. And we're very grateful to have Madalena and some of our other Dharma stars beings here, all realizing that they are ready to go to the next level of offerings. And part of what I don't speak about so much is that I've had many, many years holding space in very, very deep retreat settings. And over recent years, I've been deeply in this tantric training. So how would I say it required a very, very sober path that I have taken vows for. But I've also got a long history of working with altered states and helping people purge very, 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 very heavy, very, very heavy energies. And when we are nomadic, there's a limitation to what we can anchor in a physical space with people. But now that's all changing. And the downloads that we're getting, which are coming through even more strongly than a download, are very, very pristine bits of information that are guiding us to these schools and sanctuaries that we're going to be setting up. And none of them are particularly big. It's not about these huge experience retreat centers. We have these metaphysical schools we're going to be setting up that are very much where people come for very focused learning and very personalized learning. And this is something that we see that's missing in a lot of settings where people all want this kind of recognition and to be validated in these large circles. And it's all very expensive, but where's the shift? And I think that what people are really needing right now is focused midwifery, people really holding space for them to birth into the higher iterations of themselves, and people who can be holding space to help understand the psyche, the workings of the mind, our blockages, how we look at things psychotherapeutically or shamanically, where we're in balance with natural law, natural time. And I'm so, so grateful to all my teachers and to the wisdom keepers and tribes and Dharma holders that have shared wisdom with me over these decades. And I also speak for Madalena, who's also getting ready with lots of new offerings after also spending considerable time recently in nomadism and on retreat. And so, actually, even when we're sharing this with you, we've spent many, many months of this year on retreat, just in a very still space of nothingness in the void with no attachment to what is supposed to happen. And then these little droplets are appearing. And it's truly an honor to be receiving this information because we see a lot that I know that many people are worried about right now. And of course, everything is perfect and everything is in its perfect time. But a lot of people are speaking up that personally they're feeling like there's a lot of performative spirituality right now and a lack of application to higher principles. And we intend to create these spaces of profound transformation. And yeah, we're beginning in a few days to open those hubs up. And in the next few years, there will be opportunities to come on board with us if this sort of vision feels like something you are also looking to co-create. But you have to meet us in the artist stage because we all have to have done that work so that we're not all trauma bonding and we're really coming in with these energies for higher dharmic principles. So, are you ready to embark on your spiritual journey and to maybe enter the Artha phase? So, here are some questions you might want to ask yourself. And maybe if you want to look on a financial or material level, do you often think about money, how to earn it, save it, or secure it? Do you desire more financial stability or independence? Are you maybe in a state of being where you would love to be thriving rather than surviving? Do you feel that you're missing something in how to feel abundant in this world? What contracts you from stepping in to feeling at one and able to enter? And I'm not going to use the word manifestation, except I just did, but this manifestation thing isn't really the right code. Okay. And there's something about understanding your karma with abundance, understanding your relationship to natural law, understanding how you need to sometimes make amends for your own karma to step into that oneness with things where things just flow. Okay. So we really here to help you to understand how we can rewire from the negative karma that people create when they go crazy about manifesting rather than seeing what's really there for them in the right moment in natural law, natural time, and how to actually remedy when we're in not in right relation to actually come into the higher iteration of that. Because so many people on these neo spiritual paths are actually just in a kind of money fixated Artha phase, and there's such a desire for success and recognition and financial stability that no matter how many nice things you have, it's still the Artha phase, because if it's basically taking up more than 30% of your time thinking about it and focusing on wealth creation and all of these things, I would say you're probably Artha fixated, because Artha phase should flow. When you've done your work with Artha, you're just good with it. Your pillars, your foundations are solid, and you have total trust. There's a distrust in the divine when people are so busy trying to manifest. And there's a separation there that people are trying so hard, rather than this true receptivity that the divine will look after us. So where's our disconnect from God, the divine, whatever you may call it? And so we help you to explore that and find those wounds, okay? And then another big thing that's up at the moment is this concept of safety and stability. Okay. So we have all this stuff about I need to feel safe in the world. And yes, we do in many ways. But I have one psychotherapeutic teacher who is very strong. Yeah. And she'll always say, people say the world's not safe. And she'd be like, yeah, that's right. I don't feel safe in the world. She'd be like, that's right. The world isn't safe. So get over it. Get over it. And so there's a lot that we have to learn within Artha to start to change our perspective. And this is why a lot of Buddhist teachings are really helpful, because there's a theme and a topic called self-cherishing. And actually, if we're thinking too much about how we feel and poor me and I don't feel safe, actually, we don't go into a higher dialogue with the divine. All right. So we're here to help you understand that, but from a trauma-informed perspective, because a lot of Dharma teachers do not agree. They do not think that trauma exists, but we're coming in with a bit of a differing mindset that, yeah, we have to work with trauma, but we have to let you not get stuck there. Okay. So these statements, feeling physically safe is important to me. I avoid situations that feel chaotic or risky. I'm actively working to establish or reestablish safety emotionally, physically, or relationally. So what we see a lot of is people will come in sometimes for teachings, but then actually a lot of them have not got their priorities straight and have not devoted enough time, expense, and energy to actually doing their trauma work. So a lot of people are still blended with traumatic situations from, say, early childhood or even in utero. And then they try to come in quite high, but they haven't dealt with this stuff. And then it comes and it bites them. Yeah. And then they often project a lot. And actually, a lot of people out there maybe need to stop doing so many workshops and festivals and spend a year doing weekly therapy. Okay. And people don't want to hear that, but that's actually where a lot of people's signposts or referrals might end up. And again, this is the reason why a lot of people also need so long in therapy is because often they're not understanding the spiritual principles and the natural law principles. And furthermore, they may not be understanding how their karma works. And each person's karma is different. And this is why sacred sciences like astrology or the gene key systems can really help us to understand our programming. Because what we want to do is help you all to get through Artha really, really well and to fast track rather than keep going round and round. And this leads to the next point, nervous system and emotional regulation. So nervous system has kind of become queen of recent years, and everybody's doing nervous system stuff all the time. And again, really important. We need to understand when we're dysregulated, and we need to become more autonomous and sovereign about understanding what that feels like and looks like and understanding how we deal with that. So I think that it's a great thing to understand that. But did you know that you can actually see the state of and condition of someone's nervous system in their natal chart? Okay, you can actually see that. And so, what does that mean? That means that nervous system regulation is actually connected to our karma. And so, if we understand our karma, we understand our emotional blueprint through that, we can actually work with it more effectively. And so again, a lot of people are just fighting fires to just keep themselves teetering on the edge. And actually, Madeline and I were just having a chat earlier about how much money people seem to spend on this stuff that's just, they're not, it's firefighting. They're not really changing the stressor points. And then people are spending very, very disproportionate amounts on self-care and doing these workshops, and yet people are not investing in actually the work that's really going to change. Okay, so people are just soothing stuff. Yeah, so all this time that everybody's spending going to sound healing, which again is a great modality, but if everybody's doing that and then they're not actually changing the looping and the patterns, and this is where people are not really maybe getting their financial application straight. And it's interesting that I'm making this today, and right now we're in a very strong astrological time, and a lot of astrologers are saying this is where the financial systems are going to get really wobbly. And so, compassionately, we are really trying to lay it on the table that people can actually save money if they actually invest in the right stuff. And in a while, we were talking to some of our London Sangha yesterday, and they were saying, yeah, nobody in London's got any money right now, and everybody's really worried. And these people are on high incomes. We're hiding out in Poland because we can stay here for cheap, and and our quality of life here is brilliant, okay, right now. And but those people, a lot of them will be spending like, £100 a week on the soothing. Okay. Madalena and I were saying, we don't spend any money on that stuff because we managed to work up the causes, okay, of these loops. So we don't have to medicate, okay, with the sound baths and all of these soothers all the time. And I love these soother things, but I don't have it 3 times a week because I've changed the situations in my life, okay? And so it means that I don't have I have this life where I go to amazing places and I can live on very little for my age group, okay? And yeah, there's another way where we don't all have to be just chasing our tail, never feeling like we're getting anywhere, never having any free time, using every last bit of our budget for just these soother things, and then people are not growing. Okay. And so what I would say is it's about finding a middle way. But what's probably going to come out of a period of instability is that people will realize if I want to, if I'm a Reiki teacher or I'm a gong person, I have to get more skills because nobody's got any money anymore to come to so many of these things, and I need to get credentials. And this is why we're coming to you now to lay this on the table because we have spent considerable energy and expense getting ourselves accredited as an executive training provider so that we can offer Artha phase even to teacher training level, okay? So that we can try to help people who are already Artha informed to get this stuff out there to people, and so that we can really help people to move from these feelings of not feeling safe and everything being somatic all the time and wobbly and experience based to actually using that pillar to really step into the true spiritual journey. Okay. So another thing that we'll be exploring and it's worthwhile for you to look at is, are you in a phase of rebuilding, restructuring your life or your identity? Do you seek clarity in who you are and where you're going? Do you feel the need to get your life together before going into this deeper spiritual path? And even that with also in your relationships. And do you want to know what a secure life looks and feels like? And this is totally necessary. There is no point. I'm sure you've all seen some very ungrounded spiritual people. And if the foundations are not right, we can get psychotic, be unsafe to work with other people, and also deluded. Okay. And so there's a calling in a lot of people right now to get the foundations right. And we have some dear brothers and sisters who are very much in a kind of material grounding point of their life. And that's necessary after some years in flux where they were traveling a lot, learning a lot in strange relationships. And now that security and safety is important. But what we have to teach people is not to fixate upon that. And that's the trauma response. Many people are clutching to the comfort blanket, okay? The blankie, as my little sister used to call it. Okay, and that's what's not gonna, you got to take the blanket away at some point to really, really surrender to the divine. All right. So we have a lot of experience with doing readings with soul surgery, psychotherapy, and these fusion modalities to help people to really start to know thyself in that phase of who am I? And this is why we're releasing this at this time. We're in a profound astrological gateway this week. And this know thyself energy, we saw it was going to come in July. And suddenly every day I've got somebody asking for a reading or some soul surgery. And this is the time where we're starting to map ourselves after another layer of purification. And this is a very, very good time for us to start to just clear the cobwebs. So if those concerns are up for you, how about we all chat about how we can help that to be a positive investment into your artifice rather than just something that's isolated as I'd love to know myself more, but how you can actually understand that that's a vital part of creating the pillar of Artha. And finally, if you're feeling like you need to feel more grounded and rooted, this is again a very important part of the journey. If we do not get our root chakra balanced, if we do not understand things like the need to clear from ancestral residues, to feel rooted in our ecosystem, in our spiritual practice, to have some discipline, then it would be very, very hard for us to move to the next stage. So if you do feel like you often feel ungrounded, or I know this one is really big for a lot of people right now, that often life feels like it's moving too fast, it's okay to slow things down. And this is actually where a lot of people have been fervently in an insatiable way trying to get things, and then they've realized like they can't harness it. And actually, in the Artha phase, we'll be really journeying with the planets Saturn and Moon. And Saturn is exceedingly grounded and slows us down to help us to find the right direction. And this is Saturn is one of these things that people don't want, okay? And we'll talk deeply about that, but it's very unglamorous. Most people want the Venus, they want the shopping and the comfort. And so we're going to be talking about Saturn, and we're also going to be looking at Moon. And Moon is a lot about our needs, our emotions, our adaptability. But it is about this thing of what we all do have personal needs that need to be met, but it's also about not fixating on that. And actually, in Kala Chakra astrology, Saturn and Moon have a very special relationship, and we'll help you to understand those. Also, many people are not aware of the dimensions that are unique to each lunar phase. So the day you're born, the nakshatra, the lunar mansion you're born in, the day of the week you're born in, these things all together create a very, very unique blueprint that's very, very important to understand your spiritual makeup and your vibrational energy. And so I'm very grateful to Achala, who's my current astrological mentor, for her amazing work with the moon, because this is very, very important. And it is vital for us to tap into that, because again, then it helps us to understand our emotions and our own natural cycles. So it takes it another step beyond this fixation on full moon, new moon. That's a gateway that people go through. But actually, there's so much more when we understand the deeper, deeper influences of our Saturn and our moon and how they personally affect us. So, a few milestones. So, here are some of the things that we will be helping people to reach at the artist stage. So helping people to develop more emotional awareness and nervous system literacy. Okay, that's something. The nervous system should be something we have autonomy over, rather than thinking this event dysregulates me. It's about understanding our own makeup and understanding how we transform that into what we can and can't do in life, because these things are just a guideline. But if we're totally dysfunctional because of these things, how are we ever going to reach our Dharma? We're also going to help people to move beyond this constant identification with trauma, this beyond trauma idea that has a set of symptoms, it plays out in certain ways, and it's very important to acknowledge. But we are not here. We are here to move beyond being a trauma planet and to understand the metaphysical qualities of trauma, and then to understand that in relation to the karmic web of one's own life. That's super important. We're also help to initiate people into their personal healing power, and also to understand the ethics around that and being with others. We'll help people to understand their connection to their own gestational processes. So that have they got in utero trauma, and also have they got ancestral burdens that they need to work with to feel fully here, and how they align and feel grounded in their own ecosystem and settings. We will be looking at these codes around from thriving to surviving. We'll be looking at a lot of foundational creation story myths as well. And there will be foundational spiritual and energetic tools that will give each person, depending on the level that you come in on. And then we will be also offering these planetary journeys and immersions, and then these deeper rewirings at our sanctuaries and hubs. So we really aspire to help you move beyond this fixation on embodiment and abundance, to see how you can utilize an upgraded perspective and embodiment of that itself to undertaking the spiritual quest to oneness with the divine. So finally, we're currently developing different programs, and yeah, people who are new to us often want to try something out. So we're going to have like a try it out kind of sample Artha mini course, which is beginning in September, and people can just show up at that and get the teachings in a basic kind of very digestible, bite-sized way of learning and interacting. And then people can then turn up for mentoring with myself or some of the team. And then that helps you to progress to see what is it that you need to progress in Artha. So there's a certificate of attendance where you've received mentoring and done the try it out. And then there's the certificate of application. And this is an antidote to this popcorn way of learning that everybody's sitting watching the teacher online eating popcorn, but nobody's taking notes or applying themselves. And so when people have demonstrated that they're getting the year of therapy, or they're doing an extra workshop, X or Y, they can get a certificate that shows that they've applied themselves to the Artha tools and that they're, I would say, literate in Artha. And then we have teacher training available for people who are already on the path in some way, and especially people who would like to become affiliates, to start to be guest lecturers, to run courses through our container, our platform, and through our hubs. Okay. So through all of this, we will be able to offer personalized referrals, signposting, and mentoring alongside helping you to gain a self-reflexive process to help you map where you're at on the journey. And of course, there are different packages available depending on how much you're committing into the path. You commit, we'll meet you there. Okay. And we have an engaged team. So we have the Dharma STARS team, and then we have many, many affiliate practitioners. So I am not the nervous system queen. I am not the somatic queen, but I know enough about these things. And I have many, many dear brothers and sisters who are. So we can give referrals. We can also signpost you to readings, to learnings, to courses. And yeah, you're really invited if you feel you're already on the path to refresh, to see, am I actually looking at this from the full spiritual perspective? Am I ready to really go to Karma? And so some people might feel like they are already ready to complete teacher training. So there will be an assessment to see, are you really there? Because maybe some people have been doing this sort of stuff for decades. We don't want to say you have to start from zero, but you will have to prove that you have the perspective that's tapping into the four pillars gateways. Okay. So that teacher training is going to be approximately a 1 year immersion. We're going to be looking at multidimensional trauma, ethics, chakra awareness, astrology, much, much more. And there will be some in-person components. And these will be very deep, transformative containers. And then, as we say, teachers will then be able to offer their services and teachings via our platform. And by the way, we have a whole new platform coming to you very soon. We've been working hard behind the scenes. The void was very, very productive for us. From the nothingness has come some good stuff that, yeah, I don't know if we even saw it, and it's brilliant. So the Artha Taster course begins in September, and we really encourage you all to take that because that's the gateway to begin. And then around November, you can start to do the certificate in your own timeline. And the diploma, the teacher training diploma, begins in November. The registration for that will be open until approximately January 2026. And then that will last for about a year. And the in-person destinations, as we understand them, will be Scotland, Greece, or Mexico. So in order to graduate, you will have to be able to self-fund, come to one of the immersions there. Okay, so we're giving you plenty of time to connect to the divine, to call this in if this is speaking to you in some way. And we're not going anywhere. We're so glad we have this structure now. So this year, I think this year will probably be more affordable from people. And we have some other little things that we'll explain in further discussions, but we're going to have a free exploration call. I think it's something like the 28th of August. Please message us and we'll send you out details about that free webinar. And then the course begins, the taster course begins in September. So we are going to make it more favorably costed out this year because part of it's pilot, most of it actually we've been delivering for years. So if you're feeling the call, we would love to weave with you. And this is a way that we feel that we can all meet each other. And of course, the Artha program will grow as you bring in your wealth and wisdom and as our platform grows. So that's all for now. Thank you for listening. We give deep gratitude to all the lineages and wisdom keepers who've helped this to come through, especially those in the unseen realms who've helped us to synthesize this. And we really, really want to dedicate any merit from this to the alleviation of suffering for all sentient beings and to bringing in of a golden age within this lifetime. Gracias, gracias, gracias.